My wife of 5 years and her first love framed me and put me in prison. In my previous life, my wife of 5 years and her first love framed me and put me in prison. I couldn't defend myself, was sentenced to death with a suspended execution, and later suffered bullying in prison, dying in a cold cell. Given another chance, my wife again presented my confession letter, along with others trying to sentence me to death. The police arrived and, under everyone's expectant gaze, suddenly arrested my wife and her first love. Su Ishwan, what have you done? Meeting my wife's hateful gaze, I laughed coldly and took out all the evidence. This time, I was waiting for you to report me. Honey, is it okay? Our guest bedroom is empty, so Zhang Zhou could stay for a few days. We've been classmates for 10 years, and with the new year coming, it would be festive. Facing Fu Ming's meticulously made-up face full of pleading, I was momentarily dazed, suddenly realizing I had been reborn. Suddenly, I couldn't control the excitement and began to tremble all over. I instinctively took a deep breath, forcefully suppressing this wild joy. Nothing makes one happier than returning from death. I turned my head to look outside. The new year was approaching, with a thin layer of snow covering the roads and warm yellow street lights everywhere. Seeing that I hadn't responded, Fu Ming asked me again. Honey, Ishwan, say something. Zhang Zhou is all alone in our city with no one to rely on. I thought letting him stay until the new year would be the hospitable thing to do. Hearing this, I realized I had been reborn to the day when Fu Ming asked me to let Zhang Zhou stay. In my previous life, Fu Ming told me that a relative of hers needed to stay over, and I agreed without suspicion, letting them stay in our guest room. Little did I know that this Zhang Zhou, after staying for just a few days, began exchanging flirtatious glances with Fu Ming. I kept enduring it. One day, when I returned from working overtime at the company, I caught Fu Ming and her so-called relative in a shameless affair. Rage exploded in that moment. At that time, I slapped Fu Ming's face. Fu Ming was stunned, and then tears came down. Su Ishwan, you actually hit me? Fine, then I'll tell you everything. I never loved you. If you didn't look like Zhang Zhou, I wouldn't have married you in the first place. Hearing this, I was completely stunned. All those moments I once thought were happiness, Fu Ming's loving gazes at me, were actually all fake. My heart ached terribly, and Zhang Zhou took advantage of me talking with Fu Ming to knock me unconscious with a wine bottle. When I woke up, I was already in the hospital, surrounded by 2 police officers. Seeing that I was awake and not seriously injured, they immediately took me to the police station. Later, I was arrested by the police on suspicion of destroying public property and intentional injury. Just as I was struggling to get a lawyer for myself, Fu Ming and Zhang Zhou handed my promissory note to the police. I was accused of deliberately injuring a server at a bar. As my wife, Fu Ming accused me of frequent domestic violence, claiming that the injured server and I had past conflicts. She even provided video footage showing me beating someone in an alley. The entire incident was a thoroughly planned frame-up, and that bar server eventually died due to unsuccessful medical treatment. Throughout the whole case, it seemed everyone understood what had happened except for me, the alleged murderer. Finally, the court sentenced me to death, which was later commuted to life imprisonment due to my good behavior. But prison is no good place, especially for someone like me who had always followed a conventional path of studying, going to university, and starting a business. Without question, I immediately became the target of everyone's bullying. I was beaten to death in prison, with countless broken ribs, lying in a pool of blood until I could see nothing. And the reason? I simply wanted to get a little more food from the prison cafeteria. Thinking this through, I look up at her expectant eyes, suppressing a tidal wave of hatred, and speak softly. No, I don't agree. Faced with my direct refusal, Fu Ming was momentarily stunned, asking in disbelief. What did you say? I said I don't agree. As I repeated myself, Fu Ming's eyes widened, making the makeup she had specially applied today to persuade me look ridiculous. Why? I looked at her perplexedly, then shrugged. Because this is also my home, and I don't want to suddenly let a stranger move in. What do you mean, why? No, husband, listen to me. Seeing that I was being completely uncooperative, Fu Ming was becoming frantic. After all, the person standing outside was once her favorite person. She probably hadn't expected me to refuse so decisively, because over the years I had hardly ever truly refused her, always going along with whatever she said, which had developed into her habit of acting first and reporting later. Fu Ming bit her lip and began to persuade me earnestly. He's too pitiful all alone in this city. We're all old classmates. If he goes back to his hometown and tells everyone about this, wouldn't I be a laughingstock? Just because of that you want him to stay at our home? That's a bit far-fetched. He can go back to his hometown for the new year, or stay at a hotel. Suddenly having to move in is not appropriate. I responded, with no room for negotiation in my tone. Xiao Fu, forget it. Suddenly coming to disturb you late at night is indeed inappropriate. And it's almost New Year's. I'll just, if necessary, find a place in the suburbs to stay. It's all the same. At this moment, Zhang Zhou hesitantly spoke from outside the door. Hearing this, my expression grew colder. While saying this, his legs weren't moving at all, which made Fu Ming even more concerned. Where would you stay? You just lost your job and don't have any money. Zhang Zhou, stop pretending to be strong. After addressing Zhang Zhou, she immediately turned furious with me. Su Yishuan, what do you mean? He's already at our door. How can we not let him in? Are you even human? I never realized before that you were so terrible at dealing with people. Seeing her tone turn cold, my face also darkened. Not letting him stay means not letting him stay. I don't know him. How can I tell if he's a good person? If he keeps lingering at the door being difficult, I'll call the police. Hearing about calling the police, Zhang Zhou hesitated for a moment, then raised his voice pretending to be aggrieved. Sorry, don't argue anymore. I'm really disturbing you both. Su, please don't call the police. I'll leave right away. Sorry for the disturbance today. As he said this, he picked up his suitcase and walked straight toward the elevator. My expression remained unchanged as I saw Fu Ming frown, put on her coat, and chase after him. I didn't bother to stop her. It was completely within my expectations. After a while, Fu Ming sent me a message saying she needed to take care of her relatives' feelings, so she wouldn't be coming back tonight, and that they would discuss other matters when she returned. Taking advantage of having the house to myself, I immediately took out the hidden camera I had bought earlier when I was curious about various miniature electronic products, and installed it directly in the living room. Then I called my assistant, and the call connected quickly. Hello? Mr. Su, what are your instructions? I looked at the teacup on the coffee table, my gaze turning cold. Xiao Lu, immediately review all abnormal financial transactions from the company over the past 3 years, and send me the records tonight. Investigate thoroughly, and also help me investigate a person named Li Hao. Give me updates on everything tonight, as soon as possible. The assistant responded efficiently, and then hung up. Early the next morning, Fu Ming finally deigned to return. She specifically brought breakfast from my favorite place, placing it on the dining table as if seeking credit, and seeing that I was up, she sincerely apologized. Husband, I was wrong yesterday. I was just too anxious. Zhang Zhou and I have been friends since childhood, and when I heard he lost his job, I panicked and got worried too, without discussing it with you. Later I saw him leave, and worried he might do something foolish, so I chased after him. His mental state isn't very good right now. I looked at the kiss mark on her neck without saying anything. Noticing my gaze, she thoughtfully touched her neck, then suddenly appeared nervous. This? I was bitten by an insect yesterday and scratched it too. Hard. I nodded, not exposing her lie for the moment. Seeing my expression soften, she sat down across from me and began explaining, trying to cover up her guilt. Honey, I've told you about Zhang Zhou and me before in college. We grew up together as children. During the poorest times, he would bring potatoes from home and share them all with me, not eating a single bite himself. Because of this relationship, after I graduated and married you, I still feel very grateful to him. Is that so? Grateful enough to sleep with him? I frowned, feeling nauseated. I wanted to throw up, but didn't. After eating a few bites, I stood up. I understand. I have some work at the office today, so I won't be coming home tonight. Fu Ming was taken aback. Then a hint of wild joy flashed across her face that she couldn't suppress. Then, husband, if you get hungry at night, just order something to eat. Watching her trying hard to contain her excitement, I also pulled at the corners of my mouth, then directly walked out the door. I met Fu Ming in university. We went through a long-term relationship together. She had a first love in high school called Zhang Zhou, which I always knew about, but I never thought she was this kind of person. Because whenever she mentioned Zhang Zhou, her attitude was always very open, as if he was just a distant cousin, so I never thought much about it. During our dating period, she was always attentive to me, and even after graduation when I started my business, she always stood by me. I always thought she truly loved me. But after my previous life, I realized she never had me in her heart. I was always just a substitute for Zhang Zhou. Everything was because they couldn't be together due to the huge disparity in their family backgrounds, and I happened to have good conditions and looked similar to Zhang Zhou. The vows at our wedding, she never cared about them at all. From beginning to end, I was the only one who wanted to spend a lifetime with her. If I could start again, I would never pour my heart out to her like before. Having lived through one lifetime, I can now see her and Zhang Zhou's true faces. I will make them spit out everything they've swallowed. I didn't go to the company at all, but went straight to the underground parking lot, took out my phone, turned on the camera, and waited patiently. Sure enough, Fu Ming in the camera soon called Zhang Zhou, her tone unusually excited. Zhang Zhou, Su Yishuan has left. He won't be back all day today. You can come over now. Soon, the doorbell rang. The moment Zhang Zhou entered, Fu Ming threw herself into his arms and started kissing him passionately, while complaining between kisses. Why did you come so late? Zhang Zhou responded while his eyes kept glancing around the room, and he spoke with concern. Su Yishuan won't suddenly come back, will he? Fu Ming seemed very impatient at the mention of him. Why name? And shook her head. How could he possibly come back? When he says he won't return, he definitely won't. He's a workaholic who never cares about what I do at home. Don't worry about him. As soon as Fu Ming finished speaking, immediately unbearable sounds filled the room. They even began on the living room sofa, completely shameless. Afterwards, I heard Zhang Zhou speaking softly to Fu Ming. Xiao Fu, I don't want to continue this kind of secret relationship anymore. I want to have a legitimate status. Fu Ming was enjoying herself when she heard this and paused, then asked, how do you want to be legitimate? Zhang Zhou met her eyes, a hint of ruthlessness flashing across his face. Let's send Su Yixuan to prison, then you can divorce him. You'll get a large sum of money, and we can run away together and be happier. Fu Ming was surprised upon hearing this, and her expression became unusually hesitant. Send him to prison? Seeing Fu Ming's hesitation, Zhang Zhou immediately kissed her. Didn't you say you would do anything for me? I've already planned everything out. Just follow my lead when the time comes. Meng Fu was momentarily stunned by his kiss. She looked at his face, then steeled her resolve and immediately agreed to his request. Watching this made my blood run cold. She had switched sides so easily just because of Zhou Zhang's words. What did all our years together mean? The next moment, Zhou Zhang took out his phone and made a call. Hello? Hao Li, got a job recently, are you in? Upon hearing this name, I was suddenly startled and immediately perked up my ears to listen carefully. Because this Hao Li was the bar waiter I had accidentally struck in my previous life. They had been in contact all along. I had just asked my assistant to investigate this person yesterday. Then Zhou Zhang began discussing the entire plan, and I grew increasingly alarmed as I listened. It turned out that Zhou Zhang had contacted his unsavory friend Hao Li to act as a performer, telling him that if he took a beating, he would give him 100,000 yuan. At this point, Meng Fu asked confusedly, take a beating? Who's going to beat him? Zhang Zhou laughed confidently, pointing at his own face. Of course, your husband will do the hitting. Li Hao on the other side immediately agreed, and after Zhang Zhou's explanation, Fu Ming also agreed to do Zhang Zhou's makeup. They even specifically chose an old camera with low resolution. After all, Zhang Zhou and I had similar height and appearance. Zhang Zhou's plan to impersonate me and frame me for imprisonment was preliminarily set. So it was because of this plot to frame me in my previous life that I had saved the video as evidence. After discussing all this, the two of them became eager once again. After they embraced each other again, I rushed straight in. The moment the fingerprint lock opened, the two people on the sofa froze. I held up my phone, aimed it at them, and then shouted loudly at the screen. Uncle and Auntie, look! This is your precious daughter. Fu Ming screamed and tried to cover herself, while Zhang Zhou was also shocked and yelled out. Stop filming. Stop. Fu Ming, how could you do this to me? Finding someone behind my back. After all these years of marriage, you even brought him directly to our home. I shouted with feigned heartbreak, while her parents on the other end were shocked before launching into angry scolding. You, what are you doing? How did I end up with such an unfaithful daughter? Fu Ming, put your clothes back on immediately. What kind of behavior is this? Are you trying to give me a heart attack? Beside her, Zhang Zhou hurriedly put on his clothes and stood up. When he saw me, his face showed a fierce glare. I cautiously stepped back, afraid of what happened in my previous life repeating itself. The next moment, he just gave me a resentful glance before running straight out the door. I let out an imperceptible sigh of relief. After ending the video call, I looked at Fu Ming. In her panic, she had already put her clothes back on. Now she looked up at me, her eyes red and appearing pitifully vulnerable. Yixin, you knew everything, didn't you? I didn't say a word, coldly looking at her. Fu Ming bit her lip, then tears immediately flowed down as if they cost nothing, and she directly knelt down. He forced me. Husband, you must believe me. He seduced me first. I didn't comply. I originally wanted to invite him for a meal, but when he saw I wouldn't give in, he tried to force me, saying that things wouldn't be clear even when you returned. I really had no choice, so I agreed to what he said. Is that so? From what I saw, you were the one who voluntarily sat on his lap. I let out a cold laugh, truly amazed by her flexibility and ability to distort facts. Fu Ming was in tears, frantically trying to find more excuses, when at that moment, my phone rang. It was Fu Ming's parents. They are very traditional people, and now they were extremely angry, telling me they no longer recognized her as their daughter, and leaving her fate up to me. When Fu Ming heard the voice message, she immediately collapsed to the ground, her face turning pale. Looking at her state, I laughed coldly inside. Fu Ming, this is just the beginning. Your retribution is still to come. After that day, I kept Fu Ming directly at my home, and hadn't gone back to my own place for several days. Firstly, I was annoyed looking at her, and secondly, I didn't want to be ambushed again by some random liquor bottle and then wake up being taken away by the police. This time, I was extremely cautious, not giving the two of them any opportunity to take advantage. During this period, Fu Ming called me many times, but I didn't answer any of them. I wouldn't believe a single word she says now. And clearly, Fu Ming and Zhang Zhou wouldn't give up so easily. This afternoon, right after a meeting ended, a group of people gathered at the bottom of the company building with banners and megaphones, creating an extreme commotion. Su Corporation CEO, pay compensation. Su Yishuan, pay up. You have the guts to beat people but not to pay for it, huh? Just wait for the police to arrest you. As my assistant anxiously reported the situation in my office, I could also hear those curses from outside clearly. Boss, should we call security? I see people down there who look like a bunch of parents, saying something about you beating up their children. I frowned, almost instantly suspecting this matter was related to Fu Ming and Zhang Zhou, and went downstairs directly. When the crowd saw me coming down, they immediately surged forward but were blocked by the security guards who had followed me. Several people struggled to get ahead, their eyes full of condemnation as they angrily shouted at me. Su Yishuan, don't think you can escape legal consequences just because you're sick. Depression doesn't exempt you from paying compensation. I think you're just pretending to be ill. Think you're so great for hitting someone? Picking on children makes you some kind of hero? Why don't you try hitting us instead? Looking at their behavior, I couldn't help but frown. What do you mean hitting children? Meanwhile, employees from other companies in the building had stopped to watch the spectacle. At this moment, my assistant took out his phone and showed me a screen. I looked closer, and it was a trending topic. Man with emotional issues assaults students at school due to dissatisfaction with gift purchased by wife. My eyebrows twitched immediately. Then I looked at the video below, which now had several 100,000 likes and shares, and the protagonist of the video was me. The video began with me seeming to have an argument with Fu Ming, then abruptly throwing her flowers on the ground, followed by unhesitatingly slapping her and pushing her down. Coincidentally, high school students were getting out of school nearby, and I directly charged toward one of them in school uniform. Amid the shocked cries of the crowd, I started punching and kicking. The me in the video was extremely frenzied, and hitting one student wasn't enough. I went on to beat up several more. Parents were scared and fled in panic, not daring to touch me. Meanwhile, Fu Ming was on the side, helplessly crying out with tears. Yixian, please stop having an episode. Let's go home, okay? In the video, I hardly spoke, continuing to vent my rage freely. When Fu Ming's calls went unheeded, she immediately tried to rush over to stop me. But unexpectedly, I viciously pushed her down again and even added a kick, speaking with a hoarse voice. Asterisk asterisk. Shut up. Fu Ming immediately hugged my leg and broke into loud S. OBS. Please stop. Yishuan, I know you're suffering from your condition. Let's go home. Go home and take your medicine, okay? I'm begging you, come home with me. Meanwhile, the student I had been beating was knocked down by me and appeared unconscious. Parents gathered around in circles, pointing and whispering, while also recording videos. This video was low resolution, even somewhat blurry, but it was still easy to recognize that person as me, or more precisely, someone who looked like me. And after doing all this in the video, I apparently drove away as if no one else was there. Everyone, please calm down. Listen to my explanation. The person in the video is not me. Although I knew it was another trick from Fu Ming and Zhang Zhou, I still tried to appease the parents first, but unexpectedly, the parents didn't buy it at all and immediately started cursing at me. Explain? Explain my ass. You're dressed all proper now, not like when you were having an episode and beating kids at the school gate. Think you're special because you're rich? You think being rich means you can beat my child like that? You must be joking. I won't let you off. Sui-chin, you better give me an explanation today. Looking at their unreasonable behavior, my head was pounding with pain, and for a moment I seemed to return to my previous life when I couldn't defend myself against all accusations. And at this moment, to make things even more chaotic, another disruption arrived. Yishuan, as long as you're willing to take responsibility, I will definitely wait for you outside while you reflect on your actions. Fu Ming appeared with a swollen face, looking pitiful yet deeply affectionate as she gazed at me. People around immediately echoed in agreement. How can such a bastard have such a good wife? It's so unfair. Hurry up and listen to your wife's advice to turn yourself in. When the time comes, apologize if you need to apologize. Compensate if you need to compensate. If it weren't for your wife holding you back, I bet you would have hit even harder. I looked at Fu Ming's tear-stained face and sensed this woman's malicious intentions. Brother, why did you hit me? I was just getting out of evening study hall. At this moment, a person with a bloody face limped over and called out to me. When I looked, it was the high school student I had hit first in the video, and upon closer inspection, it turned out to be Zhang Zhou's friend Li Hao. I was instantly furious. They really knew how to target key points. In my previous life, they said I was improper and beat up a server at a bar. In this life, they had Li Hao, who had dropped out of high school and was already young, play the role of a student. And each profession was perfectly chosen to provoke public outrage. Li Hao grimaced in pain while playing the phone video. It was the wannabe hitting him. He must have gotten it from a bystander who recorded it at the time. With both testimony and evidence present, the parents standing nearby immediately became enraged. That's definitely him. What's the point of denying it now? Call the police. Lock him up. The phone video wasn't very clear, but there were a few deliberate shots of the face, and everyone could see that the clothes and appearance matched mine exactly. Wang Hao looked at me, his voice choked with emotion. You hit me so hard you damaged my hearing. I have college entrance exams in a few days. I don't want a settlement. I want you detained. What gave you the right to hit me? What gave you the right to ruin my future? At this point, just looking at him made my blood boil. Seeing him step forward provocatively, I couldn't contain my anger and immediately moved to confront him. Yishuan, stop. How long are you going to keep acting like this? Fu Ming quickly rushed over, apologizing while pulling me away. She looked at me with great concern, then hugged me and spoke to me in a choked voice. Yishuan, having done this, you'll definitely have to go in for some time. The company will have big problems. The stock alone will drop several points. This is the company you built from scratch. I don't want to see you like this. I pulled my lips into a sarcastic smile and responded. So, what do you plan to do? Fu Ming bit her lip, then spoke with a determined tone. As long as you transfer the company to me, we can pretend to divorce, and the damage can be minimized. You go first, Yishuan, and I'll hire the best lawyer to get you out. After things cool down, we can marry again. Everything will be fine then, okay? I pushed her shoulders away to create distance, meeting her expectant gaze. In my previous life, it was because of this that I believed Fu Ming's words and transferred all the company's assets to her name. But despite her verbal promises to restore my freedom, the very next moment, she had me thrown straight into prison, ruthlessly claiming that the person ultimately died despite resuscitation attempts. In my previous life, I never understood what happened, but in this life I had my assistant investigate and finally learned the truth. Zhang Zhou's unsavory friend had dropped out of high school, and in the years since had been playing the role of petty thief and doing various dirty jobs. Li Hao also had a twin brother named Li Mu, who was said to be in poor health, constantly dependent on medication, and without official identification. Thinking carefully about the time I spent in prison, it's likely that Zhang Zhou and Fu Ming joined forces with Li Hao afterward to kill Li Mu, then fabricated the illusion that the person I had beaten up in the video was actually Li Mu, ultimately successfully framing me. At that time, since I knew nothing, I let them conclude everything in one swift move. Looking back now, it truly was a scheme within a scheme. Why? Aishan, what are you still considering? The company is about to collapse. Looking at Fu Ming as she spoke to me with such emotion, I found this woman's face disgusting and just wanted her to get away from me as soon as possible. Seeing that I didn't speak, Fu Ming thought I was also frightened by the situation, so she immediately took out 2 documents from her bag and handed them to me. Look, I've prepared this too. I looked down to see, in black and white, a transfer agreement and divorce agreement. This is your life's work. Do you want it to go to waste? Yishuan, I know you were framed. Would you please sign this? Under Fu Ming's expectant gaze, I took the 2 documents and then tore them to pieces without hesitation. Fu Ming, stop pretending. It's disgusting. Fu Ming was stunned for a moment, then grabbed my arm, her voice pleading. Yishuan, I know this is difficult for you to accept, but we can't joke around with the company. I'm doing this for your own good. At this moment, I suddenly felt someone break through the security line, rushing directly toward me and pushing me. After staggering 2 steps, I steadied myself and looked at the person. It was Zhang Zhou. Zhang Zhou's face was full of righteous indignation. How can you, a murderer, still not confess? You hit someone and still have excuses. What were you about to do when you raised your hand just now? Were you going to hit someone? As he said this, he charged at me again. This time I was prepared. With a twist of my hand, amid the gasps of the crowd, I directly pinned him to the ground. What are you doing? Let me go? This madman is hitting people. This is outrageous. Seeing what I had done, the crowd tried to break through security to restrain me. The scene instantly became chaotic. Don't move. Police. Everyone stay still. Police. At this moment, the police finally appeared, having arrived late, and stabilized the situation. With serious expressions, they pulled me away from the crowd, then stood in front of me and presented their badges. Hello, Mr. Su. Off to the side, Fu Ming and Zhang Zhou's expressions subtly shifted to joy, probably thinking the police had come to arrest me. Officer. It's him. He was hitting a child at the high school in trance. Officer. Arrest him quickly. The people around, seeing that the police had arrived, became immediately agitated, clamoring for my arrest, with Zhang Zhou also shouting from the side. Officer. He deliberately hit someone. That's definitely disturbing public order. Arrest him immediately. The police looked at Zhang Zhou and the other onlooking parents in confusion, then addressed me. Mr. Su, did you file the police report? Yes. For a moment, Fu Ming was stunned, then looked at me in disbelief. You filed a report? Without even looking at her, I nodded directly to the police, and then gestured to my assistant, understanding my SI. Now, the assistant immediately took out a phone and played a video for the police. It was the footage of them having an affair at my house. Xiao Fu, I don't want to continue this kind of secret relationship anymore. I want to have a legitimate status. How do you want to make it legitimate? Let's put Su Yixuan behind bars. That way, after you divorce him, you can get a large sum of money, and we can run away together and live a happier life. Put him behind bars. The video played through the speakers, and suddenly everyone heard it. Fu Ming and Zhang Zhou's faces instantly turned pale, and they both appeared visibly shaken. Fu Ming was the first to break down. As she heard her own unspeakable voice in the video, she immediately shouted, Su Yixuan, what have you done? I let out a cold laugh. Fu Ming, you didn't think I knew nothing, did you? The bystanders were stunned. Some who were standing far away had no idea what I was up to and began questioning in confusion. He reported to the police? Something must be wrong with this guy. Reporting himself to the police? There must be something else going on. Maybe he's trying to confess to reduce his sentence. Officer, you can't shield a criminal. We're all watching here. Facing the doubtful voices around, the police officer frowned, then gestured to his shoulder. Rest assured, I have a body camera here, and there are people on duty at the police station at all times. If you have any concerns, you can remember my badge number and file a complaint against me. Before he finished speaking, several police officers had already detained Zhang Zhou. Zhang Zhou, caught off guard, shouted in surprise. What's wrong with you? You've got the wrong person. The police officer didn't say anything to me, but also invited Fu Ming and Li Hao to the police station together. Even though Li Hao, seeing the situation turning unfavorable, tried to flee in panic, he was caught and brought back. He shouted loudly, his face full of regret. I was wrong. Don't arrest me. Can't I just withdraw the report? I can't go back to the station again. As Fu Ming was being escorted away, she spoke hastily in panic. I have Su Yixuan's confession letter. Why are you arresting me? The police officer paused his actions. She quickly took out a document from her bag, but when she checked it herself, her face instantly changed dramatically. What? How is this not a confession letter? Of course not. Take a look at what it really is. I kept my face expressionless, unable to hold back a mocking tone. Fu Ming took it out with trembling hands, only to scream after one glance and throw it to the ground. A nearby police officer picked it up and looked at it. Record of illegal fund transfers from Su Corporation. The more the police officer read, the paler Fu Ming's face became, until her entire body began to shake uncontrollably. I had said the original contents long ago. During New Year, when Fu Ming had Zhang Zhou stay at her place, I took the opportunity while she was gone to search through her bag and replace that forged confession letter she had questioned me about with something else. And the illegal transfer records were precisely the documentation of Fu Ming's misappropriation of company funds for Zhang Zhou over the years, with the suspected amount reaching several million. Fu Ming, I'm suing you. Officer, this is unfair. The video clearly caught Su Yixuan. Why aren't you arresting him? What's the meaning of arresting us? Zhang Zhou was still making a commotion while being pinned down, and the police officer nearby was looking at Zhang Zhou with an expression like he was watching an idiot. Haven't you ever heard of fingerprint identification? According to the evidence provided by Mr. Su, although you put on a good act in your video, I estimate that the fingerprints and other residual extracts on the person being beaten match yours exactly. When we file a case, we not only check surveillance footage, but also conduct follow-up visits, collect fingerprints from the scene, hair DNA, and anything that can prove the perpetrator's identity. Every detail must undergo thorough verification. It's not something you can just falsely accuse someone of, understand? Upon hearing this, Zhang Zhou opened his mouth in vain, but couldn't say a word. So it was him who did the beating. What a piece of work. Exactly. My daughter is still dizzy. Greed knows no bounds. After learning the result, the angry crowd broke through the nearby security guards and police officers, rushing straight toward Zhang Zhou. Even the police couldn't pull them away, and Zhang Zhou was beaten severely. Fu Ming collapsed to the ground, clearly frightened by the scene as well. I crouched down and told her, Fu Ming, I've already sent the video of you and Zhang Zhou together to my lawyer. Infidelity during marriage, you won't get a penny. Fu Ming froze, her face ashen. Zhang Zhou, beaten black and blue, shouted at me as he was being taken away. Su Yixuan, if you weren't rich, would Fu Ming have pursued you? Would she have married you? What do I lack compared to you? I smiled coldly. My money is what I earned through my hard work. You blame me for your own incompetence, truly pathetic. What followed was a long period of investigation and evidence collection. Zhang Zhou was charged with fraud involving a large sum of money and sentenced to 50 years in prison, his life essentially ruined. Fu Ming, after being detained for many days, was heartless enough to hire the best lawyer and used her status as my wife to get released on bail. Since then, she has tried to find me many times, but I remained unmoved. At first, she still bought me gifts, waited outside my company, trying to move me, wanting me to indicate that I had aloe. Wed her to move the company's liquid funds, but I remained unmoved, treating her like thin air. She came like this every day, which annoyed me to no end, to the extent that every time I left work, my assistant would first drive the car to the entrance before I got in. Today, Meng Fu was still waiting at the entrance. With limited time on bail pending trial, she grew more anxious with each day of waiting. Disheveled and emaciated, she looked terribly haggard. Seeing me come out, her eyes suddenly lit up and she rushed over. Yishuan, you're off work. I ignored her and quickly got into the car. Meng Fu seemed to realize I was about to leave and hurriedly rushed forward to chase after the car. Yishuan, where are you going? Don't leave. I beg you to listen to me. Just 2 sentences. Is that too much to ask? Su Yishuan. She chased after the car from behind, but I didn't look back at all. Then, the accident happened at that moment. A bright truck drove from the intersection on the other side. Fu Ming was so focused on chasing the car that she didn't notice the truck. The truck couldn't brake in time, and in almost an instant, she was hit and thrown through the air. My heart jolted with shock, and I instinctively instructed my assistant. Keep driving, don't look back. I heard that Fu Ming eventually became a vegetative state after being hit by the car. Because her family had no money or ability to care for her, they gave up on her treatment, leaving her to lie in the hospital for the rest of her life. And if by some miracle she recovered from her vegetative state, she would still go to prison. Because she had illegally misappropriated funds, her final punishment would only be heavier than Zhang Zhou's, not lighter. As for me,